Life has not always been fair. Tougher times and darker ages have genetically instilled in us a sense of fear. These fears are often triggered by certain living creatures, unexpected situations, or inanimate objects and things. Many of these phobias arise from our mind's defense mechanism, which instinctively tells us that something is wrong. Pediophobia is the excessive, irrational, and persistent fear or worry of dolls. Movie makers have cashed in on this phobia for years, with movies like The Great Gabbo, Dead of Night, Devil Doll, Asylum, Trilogy of Terror, Deep Red, Magic, Dolls, Child's Play, Puppet Master, May, Saw, Dead Silence, and even Annabelle. But the one original doll who has been haunting humans in real life before any other and is famously recognized as the doll that has inspired more than a few of these scary movies is Robert the Doll. In fact, a horror film based on his legend alone was released in 2015 titled Robert. This film series already has a sequel, which released in 2016 titled The Curse of Robert, and a third, which should complete the trilogy, is set to release in 2018 titled The Revenge of Robert. Being over 111 years old, Robert dates back to an early 1906 when his owner Robert Eugene Otto, an eccentric art painter who came from a distinguished family, was just a little boy. His family moved into a mansion now known as the Artist House at 534 Eaton Street on the island of Key West, Florida. A location that is still open to all of you horror seekers as a bed and breakfast hotel. Robert Eugene's family, the Ottos, were not known to be the kindest of people, and they often mistreated their servants and helpers. One such mistreated servant girl who was hired to take care of Robert Eugene personally reportedly practiced voodoo. The story goes that one day Mrs. Otto witnessed this servant practicing black magic and had to fire her. But before leaving, the woman cast a spell on Robert Eugene's lifelike doll that Robert Eugene had named after himself. The doll, which stood 3 feet tall and was manufactured by the German Steiff Company, had buttons for eyes and real human hair. Some people believe this voodoo spell caused an unusual connection between Robert Eugene and the doll. Nevertheless, the doll, sporting Robert Eugene's childhood naval officer's uniform, was Robert Eugene's trusty companion, even reserving a spot for it at the dinner table, and had his parents tuck them both in at night. This relationship would soon turn dark. The first hint of foul play was Robert Eugene's consistent agitation, which worried his parents and the servants. Out of nowhere, random household objects were thrown across the room, and Robert Eugene's toys would turn up mutilated, while giggling could be heard throughout the house. Everyone would always blame poor little Robert Eugene.
Lies. Well, you won't get any new toys until you prove you can be responsible. You did this, and you will suffer the consequences.
And although he always took the punishment, he insisted that the doll was to blame.
Robert did it.
Robert Eugene's parents began to hear the two of them having conversations, But little did they know the doll was answering back in a much deeper voice. Then one night, he woke up to find Robert at the edge of the bed, glaring at him. This caused Robert Eugene to have nightmares, and his parents would sometimes wake up to screams coming from the boy's bedroom. When they were finally able to wrench the locked door open, they would see the poor boy hiding under his covers, and the doll was never where they left it. This progressed to furniture being tossed around the room, and sometimes poor Robert Eugene would be cowering in the corner crying, "Robert did it! Robert did it!" The paranormal activity caused more and more servants to quit, and it wasn't long before tales of a haunting within the mansion traveled all across the tiny little island. Respecting Robert Eugene's wishes not to throw the doll away, it was eventually put in the home's attic, where it collected dust for many years. After his parents died, Robert Eugene inherited the old mansion, and he decided to return there with his new wife, Annette Parker. After some dusting and cleaning, Eugene found his old friend secretly tucked away in the attic. The doll made his wife uncomfortable, but despite her protests, Robert the doll found his way back into the home, with a full view window of the streets outside. Meanwhile, Robert Eugene became obsessed with the doll, and would take the doll along with them everywhere, and even kept the doll at the foot of the bed while he and his wife slept at night. Gene's wife found Robert Eugene's obsession with the doll very upsetting, and her disgust for the doll was apparent. One day his wife decided she had had enough, and she hid Robert back in the attic. When Robert Eugene noticed, he was so displeased that he forced her to apologize to the doll and allow Robert to stay. It was then that his wife began to question Robert Eugene's sanity, as their marriage slowly began to fall apart. Still, the paranormal activities continued. Visitors to the Otto home experienced unusual activities, while pedestrians reported hearing the doll's whispers and felt someone glaring at them as they walked by. This infamous glare became famous by the island's school children, who would take the long way home fearing the sight of Robert at the window. People would no longer visit, and the Ottos began losing their friends. Tired of all the public commotion, Robert Eugene was forced to again put Robert back into his attic prison. But Robert did not go back quietly. It is said that after a night on the town, Robert Eugene and his wife returned, only to find the doll holding a butcher's knife in his hand. Robert Eugene's age and what seemed to be the doll's hold on him soon took its toll. Robert became sicker and sicker and soon became so demented that he locked himself away in the turret room with Robert the doll at his side. Robert Eugene Otto unfortunately died in 1974. His wife, who wanted to finally be free of the doll's curse, sold the house soon after, leaving Robert tucked away up in the attic. In 1994, the home's new owner, Myrtle Reuter, donated Robert to the Fort East Martello Museum, which, by the way, also has a history of being haunted. She claimed he moved around the house and caused all sorts of trouble, and she was tired of having to deal with the doll's mischievous shenanigans. Myrtle would die a few months later, but to this day you can still find Robert the doll there, encased in glass, holding his pet plush lion Leo. Employees and visitors claim cameras and electronic devices malfunction in his presence. Others have seen the doll move, change his facial expressions, and whisper or make giggling noises. One employee reported having cleaned Robert one night and turned off the lights when he left. The next day he returned only to find all the lights on, with Robert sitting in a totally different position and a fresh layer of dirt smudged on his shoes. People have claimed that the doll is aware of what goes on around him, and that if you anger Robert, you will fall victim to a car accident, broken bones, job loss, divorce, and even death if you fail to show Robert the respect he feels he deserves. To take his picture, you must ask nicely, and if he approves, he will nod his head in permission. However, if he doesn't, and you snap a photo anyway, a curse will fall upon you and those you are with. That doesn't, however, stop people from flocking by the thousands every year to lay their eyes on and snap photos with the haunted doll. Ironically, every week Robert receives letters through the mail, and sometimes gifts, including candy, money, and sometimes even joints or bags of marijuana from those who have visited him. The letters and gifts are usually for apologies, begging for Robert's forgiveness for whatever curse he may have bestowed upon them. Many of these letters now line the hallway of Robert's domain for the public to see, warning people to treat the doll with the utmost respect. Robert's ordeal has catapulted the doll to fame. Every now and then, Robert leaves his glass enclosure and with a museum staff entourage will visit horror cons and ghostly festivals. He has appeared on several ghost-related TV shows, including the Travel Channel's Zach Bagans' Deadly Possessions, the TV series Lore, and even Ozzy and Jack's World Tour starring the one and only Ozzy Osbourne.
You farted in front of Robert. You're bro. It's like spitting on him.
Farts.
Robert doesn't. Sorry, Robert.
Sorry, pardon.
Robert even has his own website, robertthedoll.org, where you can order a Robert the Doll mini replica of your own. He has his own Facebook page, his own Twitter account, and even a Wikipedia entry dedicated to him. Every year, ghost hunters, psychics, and debunkers visit Robert, trying to witness firsthand the thriving energy once placed upon him by this voodoo curse. He's had his aura photographed and even analyzed, and he is a key stop on one of Key West's famous ghost tours. Like it or not, there is something going on with Robert the Doll. And whether or not his shenanigans is due to some voodoo curse, or perhaps the broken bond between Robert Eugene Otto's soul and his forgotten toy, one thing is for sure. Robert the Doll is real, and he is here to stay.